This is a content warning. At around the 23-minute mark through the 28-minute mark of this episode, my guest and I engage in dialogue related to having thoughts of self-harm. We advise our listeners to practice self-care and to be safe. Thank you for joining me on this episode of the OurView Podcast. On today's episode, I welcome my guest, Amanda Clark. Amanda was born with a limb difference, which caused her left arm to be shorter than her right arm, and she was born with 9 fingers. Amanda has started a nonprofit called Beautymark Community. Join our conversation as we discuss our Beautymarks and the importance of community in our effort to raise awareness and advocate for those who have disabilities. Oh, thank you so much for joining me today, and I am happy to have you, Amanda Clark, on the podcast today. And I would like for you to start off by telling our listeners a little bit about you. Who is Amanda?
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for having me. I'm always, super excited whenever I get a platform to talk about who I am and what I do, because it's very rare, and I very, very much appreciate the opportunity. So thank you for
Yeah, you're
having me.
welcome.
Um, so a little bit about me is I was obviously, born with a beauty mark. I like to call it a beauty mark. A lot of people call it disability, but I call it a beauty mark. And I am 32 years old. I am happily married and I have 3 children. And I guess my journey started, you know, of course, as a youngin, growing up in my neighborhood, definitely singled out from the many children around me. There was nobody who looked like me. And so the change started right there. But then as I got older, I had 2 sons who actually have beauty marks themselves. And that is where I had to like push harder. So that is when I had to like, okay, just me sitting down and explaining to certain people, that's not enough. I really have to like push this out. So that's where my inspiration came from them. Um, People are only like rude to what they don't know. You know what I
Right.
mean? I think that our time is to educate the generation, that's next, so that way
Yes.
they can understand and then they can like teach other children. Beauty Mark Community was founded on both um, a good scenario
Mm-hmm.
and a bad scenario because okay, so my child, my 11-year-old daughter, who wasn't born at all with any beauty marks. She's got all her limbs, very bright girl.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing was wrong with her, right?
Right.
And so uh, similar to your story, I was walking with her to the bus stop, and I walk with her every day to the bus stop, and she was
Mm-hmm.
like, "Mom, I got it," and I was like, "Okay," like I was teasing her because I was like, really, you too grown for me to walk you to the bus stop? I do this every morning, seriously. And she was like, she turned around and she said, no, Mom, it's not that. And, you know, a fear came over me because I've always like predicted this to happen. Being a mom of a child without a beauty mark, you have that slight fear in the back of your mind that
Mm-hmm.
maybe she's going to be embarrassed to you, maybe he's going to be embarrassed to you, maybe like they're going to struggle with that. She was bullied a lot because of me. A lot of kids didn't understand,
Wow.
um, and they would tease her, tell her she had a one-armed mom. So I had to, in that moment where she began to be embarrassed, not of me, but of the situation,
Right.
I had to really rethink things and say, because even though it hurt, because I'm not gonna lie, it did, it stung. It was
Yeah.
stung a lot. Um, But as I turned around and I walked back to the house, I said, I got to do more. I got to do more. I got to do something better, because what I'm doing now is not working. For my
Yeah.
daughter, the one who's grown up with me, like you said, who's watched me do this and do that,
Mm-hmm.
she should never have felt that way, and I could not help but think that maybe if I educated her more about it, rather than her just picking up, you know, herself and seeing what I'm doing, if I had educated her more, then maybe, she would have been able to say, hey, this is the way my mom was born, but she does X, Y, and Z. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? And so I made it my business to not only educate other children, but educate my own.
Right.
So, and then when my when my sons were born, it's totally different now. Both of my sons are born with Beautymarks, so my daughter is like a firecracker with them. Like her whole demeanor changed. Like now that she sees mom going to schools and mom is teaching and doing seminars and everything, that now she's like on board. Now she's excited whenever somebody asks what's wrong with her arm, or what's wrong with your brother's hands. Like she's like, oh,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong, but I'll tell you, like like she's
Right.
so excited about it now. And I think that's because, of the education. We have to educate our kids about things that they are unfamiliar with. And it's okay.
Absolutely. And that's what, and it wasn't, like I said, when that experience I had with my nephew, that was like, I was almost 30 and I never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
That kids look at me and even adults look at me because of
Mhm.
their lack of understanding, the lack of knowledge that exists around people with disabilities.
Yeah.
And it was really, it was in that moment where I was like, oh, they like, kids stare at me because they don't know me. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. It's like, oh my
Wow.
gosh, it all made sense in that one moment.
Yeah.
Just because of the way he explained it to me, of, well, they don't know that you swim and you drive a car and you do this and that. And I said, yeah, you're right, they don't know because they don't live with us, they
Right,
they don't
right,
see me all the
right.
time. So, and they don't have somebody who is like me in their life, so you have to tell them about it. And then that's
Right.
when it hit me, where I said, like, that's what I have to do, I have to start talking about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because even in my family, I remember, I have an older sister who, she's a year and a half older than me. So we grew up at the same time, pretty much, being around the same age. But I have a very large family. And one of my cousins, also, when I was in my 20s, my cousin said, well, what is spina bifida? And I looked at him and I said, what do you mean? He said, well, we
Right.
all know that's what you have, but what is it?
But what is it?
What does it mean? What is it? What is it? And I said, well, you know what it is. He goes, no, I really don't. We never talked
Wow.
about it. It was just,
Wow.
that's Arthur. He has to use his crutches and uses a wheelchair. And, he's, he said, only thing I remember is you were my older cousin who had a car and you could take me places. My mom would let me get in the car with you. He said, that's what I remember, being a teenager, and my cousin has a car and my mom will let him take me places. So he
Wow.
said it didn't matter what it was, what spina bifida was. He said, but now I'm really interested in knowing. So
That's a
I
good
think
thing.
it is. And I think that's why, the work that you do with the Beautymark community, I think it's so important, because we have to educate,
Yeah.
because of even like you said, within our own families,
Hmm.
within our own households. And so then that way they can be better knowledgeable of our situations and our experiences, and be able to handle it when somebody makes a joke or something like that about
Right.
about our situations or limitations, or what they think are limitations. But we can do a lot of everything everybody else can.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
So how long ago did you start the Beauty Mark community? It is a nonprofit, right?
Yes, it is a nonprofit.
Okay.
Um, so this has been for about oh my gosh, 8 years now. This has been
Awesome.
8 years. However, I did not work for over those years.
Okay.
So it took a while for it to be a legitimate nonprofit organization. It's
Hmm.
been nonprofit for going on 2 years,
Okay.
but altogether, the idea of it has been 8 years.
Wow.
Um, and funny fact, it used to be called Imperfect Warriors. Imperfect Me. That used to be the name
Oh.
of this company, because I was afraid to put it out there
Hmm.
too soon, and I thought that maybe someone would steal it. So it was
Oh.
called Imperfect Me for about 6 of those years.
Wow.
Yeah. So it just became Beautymark Community not too long ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But in the process, I would always call someone who was obviously born different, or whether internally
Hmm.
different. I would always say or refer them to my Beauty Mark brother or my Beauty Mark sister, just giving like little hints of
Yeah.
what it was going to actually be called. But yeah,
Yeah.
so
The setup has
yeah,
always
the
been there
setup.
for
Yeah,
it.
the setup has always been there for but it's a very rare, what we're doing is very rare. I see a lot of organizations, a lot of nonprofits who have like a single, you know, avenue to go to.
Hmm.
But in Beauty Mark Community, we're trying to literally, like the name in itself, like Beauty Mark Community. We're trying to make
Community.
it a
Yeah.
whole, yeah, and bring all those organizations together and just like learn from each other. And then with that, we'll understand that we are more alike than we are different.
Yes.
So that's the whole idea of it. And if you ever look at my like Instagram or my Facebook,
I
we
love your
always have like,
Instagram.
yeah, we have we have like like all different genres of beauty marks, and I just love it. Like I literally get excited like within my soul, seriously.
Yeah.
We have people who have we have people who have spinal conditions. We have people
Hmm.
who are albino. We have people who have limb differences, things that you can't even see, that you would look at their picture and not even know. So I love it because it's just you learn from each other. And I think that once we start educating one another about it, then the ignorance won't be so bliss, right? Because I believe that, until I tell somebody my story, then it becomes inspirational. But if I don't say anything to you, and like, because I could go into a
Wow.
store, which is every day. I go into a store and a kid is like, "Mom, what happened to her arm?" And the mom is so quick to shut them up and be like, "Oh, I'm sorry." What are you sorry for? They want to know.
Right.
At what point are we going to be able to have that platform to educate them? So unless we give them
Wow.
that privilege to ask those questions, and then we can, answer them, then, we can't move forward from there. So education is very big for me, when it comes to sharing people's stories. And I like to call them beauty mark stories, because there's
Hmm.
so many different stories out there, and I think that is beautiful that we're coming together, you know.
Yes. Yeah, that's one of my goals is to change the tone of conversation
Yes.
about disabilities.
Yeah.
I always tell when I do the presentations in schools, I always use the example of we hear of what the person with the disability can't do.
Mm,
They can't walk, they can't hear, they can't see. Uh, I want to change that to say, although they can't hear or can't walk or can't see, they also do this, these positive things.
right.
They also have a job, they also have a family that they take care
Right.
of, and they drive a car and they travel and they do all kinds
Right.
of things. I love one of my favorite music artists is Stevie Wonder. it's,
Yes.
it's almost like you forget that he's blind because he
Yeah.
writes some of the best songs ever
Really
that
does.
were ever written.
Really,
Yeah,
really
so
does.
it's really just I want to help change that whole tone of conversation from a negative into so it's nothing negative, that it's all positive, and
Right.
we start seeing people with differences to be, like you said, more alike, more like everybody else than they are different,
Yeah.
because we do like doing the same things. And 20 years ago or so, I would love roller coasters much more than I do now, but
Look, I listen, I think that with the community, being as though it is, I'm such like a brain teaser. Like I
Mhm.
can have all these ideas, but to create it, that's not me.
And the thing is, though, like you said, with the community of people coming together, I think
Yeah.
in anything is possible. People
Oh
with
yeah.
with disabilities, without disabilities, it's really anything is possible if everybody comes together and realizes that everybody has a part to play. Everybody has a part to play, and everybody can come together as a community. Which I love that that is part of your. I love that that's part of your nonprofit name, the community part.
Yeah.
It's because it
Yeah.
really does speak to everybody being together, everybody coming together. And
Yes.
I think
Hmm.
especially now, uh, in the last few months of us with the pandemic and everything going on, I think we've really, in a lot of ways, we've developed our own communities are within the community.
Right. Right.
And we've had to depend on some people for a lot of different things. And for myself, I wasn't going out too often to the store, so I had to depend on some friends and family to bring food past my house for me. And uh just because it was a scary time for a couple months there
Yeah.
with not knowing what was going on. So it's just
Right.
the whole, I love the community aspect of everything.
Yeah.
So it's
We have to think about one another, and not to,
yes.
degrade all the communities out there,
Oh, right.
because I
Yeah.
think that is beautiful, but it there is a time when we have to like just unify that and then come together and find out what's different about each other. Like for instance, a child could have cancer, right?
Hmm.
In the beginning stages, the diagnosis that her beauty mark would be internal, but then
Right.
later on throughout treatments and all of the things that she's gone through, maybe she lost a limb around the way, so now she's not only got an internal beauty mark, but she's got a physical beauty mark. So there's things that a person in a limb difference community could help, encourage her, build her confidence, her self-esteem, give her some wisdom on, how to become an amputee, things like that. Whereas if
Right.
she never even thought of, because she had all her limbs to begin with, and now she has something that we can relate to. So
Right.
you know what I mean? Like there's just it's coming a time where we really just have to glue all the pieces together and just like become one community. And so I love it. I love, I DM somebody in a minute like, can I feature your photo on my timeline? I'm so excited because like it's good to see so many different beautiful people out here,
Yeah.
and I tend to think that people who are born or become different, God just sprinkled a little bit more creativity on them and said, you know what, I need you to go out in the world and I need you to be a light in a little bit more creative way. So
Right.
I love it. I think that it's beautiful, and I legit get so excited. Like my favorite mentor, I know he's gone, he's long gone, but Mr. Rogers is like my mentor.
So
I
great.
study him.
Yes.
I study him. I study the way he was acting on stage and off stage. I still study him to this day. There's a lot of things that I found out about him that he never even like recorded or put on blast. Like he just did it secretly, and it
Right.
was just
Yeah.
amazing, to see his heart for humanity. And so that's my goal. That is literally my goal in all of this.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Yeah, he has, like you said, he's done a lot of amazing things and stories that have come out since he has passed, about the things that he has done that, like you said, in private without people knowing, were really, have really been impressive. And such a great show, takes me back to my childhood.
Oh yes, love that show. Love that show. Ugh,
So, you touched on it a little bit, when you said about, God sprinkling a little bit of extra. I would like to talk about your faith. We have some mutual friends, who, and I've seen your posts, and you're very faith based, and a lot of your merchandise that you sell, I see, is
yes,
based on faith sayings and things like that, and which I think is
yes.
really great. So I would like to talk about what your faith means to you, and how that has helped you embrace. How has your faith helped you embrace your beauty mark?
It's definitely a relationship. I have a bond with the Lord, and I
Hmm.
believe that my faith, first of all, it being transparent. There was a time where I was very stubborn towards God because I blamed him in many ways for creating me the way that he did. There was not there was not a time, back then where I was appreciative of what I have now. There was a time where I was very annoyed. I was frustrated. I was
Wow.
angry even of what I had. I didn't understand, out of all the billions of people in this world,
Hmm.
why was it me that he chose to be a little bit more creative, a little bit more unique. And so I used to, point my finger towards the Lord. Why did you do this to me? People would stare at me. I would have no friends. That, I would be struggling. Why would you do this to me? And,
Right.
as I grew up, my mom and my dad, they never treated me any different. They never even mentioned the word disability. I never thought I had anything. It was almost as if I was living in two worlds, because at home I was loved and I was cared for and I was told that there was nothing wrong with me. But then in school I was told that I was disabled and I was called names that I never heard before. And
Right.
then so it was living in two worlds, and I'm like, well, who's lying? I know they not lying because they don't love
Right.
me.
Right.
So I know they're gonna tell me the truth because they don't even know me.
Right.
So it's just like I chose, and I want you to understand that word. I chose to listen to them. I chose to listen to them. And so listening to them has gotten me absolutely nowhere. Okay. By the age of, I believe it was 16, I was I wasn't even in the right wing at my high school, but in high school I went to a whole different other wing. I went to the left side of the wing just to commit suicide. I was ready to end my life. I was tired of waking up each and every day surviving. I did not want to survive anymore. I wanted to live and I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't find a way. I was tired of hiding. Anybody who knows me in high school, for all 4 years of my high school years, even in elementary school and middle school, high school, I've always wore a coat. I've always worn a jacket to try to hide my arm. And so I was just tired. I couldn't deal with it anymore.
Wow.
There was times where I was almost like fainting because I would literally be about to pass out. Like I would have to
Mm-hmm.
subside myself from the classroom and go to the bathroom at least 4 or 5 times a day just to take my jacket off to get some air before I passed out. That's how bad it was. Didn't matter if it was cold, didn't matter if it was hot. I wore that coat because I was tired of the stairs. And for one moment, I just wanted to feel normal, right? So
Wow.
about to commit suicide. I literally planned the whole thing out. I was super happy that day, so nobody would expect anything. I wrote a goodbye letter to my mother. I was after I was going to do it between classes, so that way the next class would know that I wasn't there, and
Mm.
then they would try to look for me. So I went to the bathroom, in the 12th grade wing, so that way they couldn't go to, my wing, so to try to get me out faster. So I went to the other the other side of the building,
Wow.
and I was going to hang myself. And I remember, like, maybe like 3 steps before I got to the bathroom, I got called down to the principal's office. And I'm like, what the heck did I do now? Like, I'm not even doing anything. I'm just going to the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
And they called me. And again, I had a choice to make: go to the principal's office or go finish what I was doing. In my mind, I was like, if I go to the bathroom and I do what I was going to do, they're going to continue to call me. They're going to look for me right away. So I can't do it right now. That's what I said to myself. So I went to the office and went to the principal's office. Got there, they sent me right to the counselor's office. I'm like, what the heck is going on? I've never been to the counselor's office. Never. Go to the counselor's office. The lady's like, you want to tell me something? I'm like, no. She goes, I found something that your teacher gave me. I'm like, what did he give you? She gives me a paper, and it's the letter that I wrote my mom. I threw
Oh,
it in the trash
wow.
can. And mind you, I never got along with this teacher. Never, never did. Um, Always had problems with him, because he simply did not like me wearing my jacket in the classroom. He used to tease me about it. The teacher used to
Wow.
say, it's too hot, just go to the office. You're making me hot. Like, he would say that to me in front of everybody. So we never got along. We never got along. And but this particular day, I guess me being quiet, because I used to argue back with him. I was very stubborn in my
Mhm.
teenage years. Um, but this time, I guess because I was being quiet, because again, I tried to make sure that nobody knew anything. Um, he went in the trash can after I wrote a whole thing. He saw me writing. I like wrote a whole letter, like a whole letter. Saw me write it and then just dumped it in the trash. I guess he was curious, but call it what you want. It was an act of God. That's all I could say.
Yeah.
That was an act of God saving my life. And when the counselor woman looked at me after reading it, she says, you're not alone. I know what you're going through. And I looked up at her like, but I didn't say anything. But in my mind, I'm like, how can you possibly
Right.
understand what I'm going through? You don't know what I'm going through because you're not in my shoes. You have all of your limbs. And give and take, I know kids, they grow up and they constantly are battling with who they are, and they're constantly having that on their shoulder, people teasing them and all of that. Give and take, okay. But a person who has a limb difference, or who's different at all, and then they have to surround themselves in that world and adapt to it, I think it's 10 times harder, because it's just like I already have to deal with my emotions, and now I have to deal with my physical, appearance. So it's just like it was a constant battle, and I was just really, really tired of it. And so um I went home that day, didn't say anything to my mother. I begged the counselor not to say anything to my mom or my dad because I was just really embarrassed. But needless to say, I did not, you know, hurt myself, and I did not kill myself. So I'm very thankful for that. Um, I did have a rough start in my years, my teenage years. I was a teenage mom. I remember saying to myself, well, if nobody else will love me, maybe my child will. Maybe my child will. Maybe my child won't see what everybody else is seeing. And I remember having her, my daughter, best thing that ever happened to me. In July, before my due date, she was due the 14th, and in June is when I was like 8 months pregnant and stopped wearing my jacket because I was like, it's too hot for this. Like, ain't nobody got time for this.
Right.
Let them look. I don't care. I was just so hot. I was like, if they stare at me, I'm gonna slap them in the face because I was just so hot. And that was just the beginning of freedom for me. Like,
Mm.
and my daughter helped me. And I'm not pushing anybody to have, you know what, out of wedlock. I ain't saying that. That's not what I'm saying. Don't miss what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that the Lord saved me from something that I could not get myself out of. Okay. And so there's different tactics of that. And unfortunately, it was my sin that, but he turned beauty for ashes. And so I'm very happy for that, because even though I did something that I wasn't supposed to do that soon, you know,
Mhm.
he used her to help me get my freedom. And so
Mhm.
all I remember saying is when my daughter was born was, I don't want her to be ashamed of herself. I don't want her to feel like I felt. I don't want her to ever feel like she's not worthy or loved, or I don't want her to, do the same thing that I did with the Lord. So I faked the funk for years. I'm just being
Mm.
real. On behalf of my daughter. So I'm still
Wow.
questioning, but I'm putting on that facade so that she doesn't see what I'm going through. And so I would still,
Mhm.
not wear my jacket, and I would be myself. But oh my gosh, man, like the stuff that I endured while she was a baby, people would literally take my daughter out of my hands because they didn't think that I could hold her. You're a total stranger taking my baby out of my hands
Oh,
because
wow.
you don't think I can hold her. Like, there was just a lot of stuff that I had to endure while raising my daughter. And it was
Mhm.
just, I had to keep silent, and keep moving and keep pushing because of her. And so, long story short, I've, come out to be, if I can't say anything, who will? If I keep my mouth shut, it's gonna keep eating me inside. And maybe these stories, maybe everything that I've ever gone through will help somebody, encourage them to keep moving, to keep pushing.
Yeah,
Because if I could do it, you could do it.
definitely. And
And yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say I can relate to the not always being accepting of, my condition,
Yeah,
and being left out of things as a kid, and like you said, the being made fun of and staring and all of that. When I was younger, yes, it definitely definitely was bothersome to me. And I was probably in my late teens, maybe. I think I had just started college, and yeah, I did. I had just started college, and the way my schedule was set up, and we've been going to church all of my life as far as I can remember.
yeah.
Um, and the way my school schedule was set up, I was able to attend like a noonday Bible study at my church. But that noonday Bible study was filled with older retired women
Mm.
at my church, because it was literally at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Right.
And one of the older, much older women, she was probably in her 80s at that time. Uh, she ended up telling me one day that I had to start inserting my name into certain scriptures of, like, I am
Mm.
fearfully and wonderfully made.
Mm.
Instead of saying I, say I am Arthur. You
Right.
are fearfully and wonderfully made. And it was at that moment where I was just like, yeah, I am. You're right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was really just like a big, like, aha, wake up call moment for me. And it was
Yeah.
like, wow, like, yeah, I
Definitely.
I am like, you're
Yeah.
right. And I am, Arthur, you are made in his image, and it's
Yes.
like, wow, even this, with these braces and crutches and using this wheelchair and all the pain and things that I feel at times and the surgeries I've had
Yeah.
to, go through. It's like, wow, you're right. I am fearfully and wonderfully
That's
made.
right. That's right.
So it,
And
it
then
really wasn't, it really wasn't, I had a great, looking back, it's like, yes, things can always be worse for people and all of that.
yeah.
Um, and I had a great support system, as you said, at home. Yeah, my parents, my older sister, we used to fight like siblings do, and uh, there was nothing wrong with me at home. And then it was like you said, when you walked outside and went out into the
Mhm.
world,
A
is
whole
where you
nother
were
world.
told, yeah, it's where you were told, well, this is wrong with you, and
Right.
different. Uh, but being at home, I had the same chores, and I had to, get the trash together and
Mm-hmm.
wash
Yep.
dishes and dry dishes and everything. We worked it out, and I couldn't carry some things, so I would gather everything up, and my sister would, take the trash out, or
Right.
one of my parents would. And so it was really, uh, yeah, as you said, once you went outside and into other situations outside of the home, outside of your
Yeah.
family unit, where you were told that you're different,
Mm-hmm.
and people wondered why you were different, and how,
And
how you were different.
unfortunately, we didn't have the answers because at home we were like, well, there's nothing wrong with me. So it's
Right.
just like, I don't know what's wrong with me.
Right.
You tell
maybe
me.
you
I
maybe
don't
you
know.
can tell me. Maybe you can
I
tell me,
don't
because
know.
nobody else has ever told me something was wrong with
Right.
me.
Right. Oh my gosh.
That's so
So
true.
that is why my primary goal right now is to share with my kids. And I always like point it out to them. Like I literally school my kids. Like you see how a lot of children are like technical, right?
Yes.
So I will pull up pictures on social media for them to see for themselves. Like I'll show them pictures and be like, okay, where's her beauty mark? Or where's his beauty mark? Like what's
Wow.
different about them? Like I do that because
Hmm.
the more that they're aware to it. My son the other day, we were um we were in the store and he was like, this woman, uh she had cancer. She didn't have any hair on her head. He says, Mom, look, she has a beauty mark. And I just thought it was so beautiful because it's just
Wow.
like, and the word beauty mark, let me just tell you, the word beauty mark gives our dignity back because there's been so much labels on the word disability. It's like I heard this saying, don't diss my ability. Like, because when you really think about it, like, I'm going to tell you right now, Arthur, that chair you're in is disabled. It can't move. It can't go anywhere. It can't do anything. But the moment that you put your
Without
hands to
me.
it, so you're not disabled. The chair is disabled. You have a beauty mark.
Hmm.
So that's how I view it. And that's how I want the world to view it because we have to start bringing our dignity back. They've taken so much from
Wow.
the disabled community and has labeled us to be singled out, and it's just not fair. It's not fair. And
Hmm.
enough is enough, right? We got to
Yeah.
come together and we got to show people that there's nothing disabled about me. My motto is I do everything you could do. I just do it a little bit different.
Yep.
That's
Exactly.
it. That's
Yeah.
it. But don't belittle me because I'm not doing it the way that you're doing it. I
Right.
tell people all the time, listen, there was a time where I wouldn't say anything. I would shut up and I would just wouldn't say anything because I didn't know how. But now I say, listen, I've been doing this for 32 years. I think I got it.
Right. I know what I'm doing.
I think I got it. I can work my way around it. Like, but you got to tell them because they don't know. You
Right.
know what I mean? And it's okay. It's okay because I used to be offended. I used to be offended of that. People trying to
Hmm.
help me and not asking me for their help. I used to be offended. But I had to start seeing their eyes. through
Mm-hmm.
their eyes. I had to start putting myself in their shoes. If I was to see somebody who was different than me, I would stare. Well, I would be happy, but I would stare
Mm-hmm.
because I don't know what it is, and it's unique. And
Right.
everybody is drawn to uniqueness. Everybody is drawn to creativity. That's how the world works. But if
I
I,
I definitely I definitely agree with that. They're drawn to the
yeah,
uniqueness of it all, and it's not uh that it's not always a negative thing. It's just
right,
they're interested in your story. A lot
right,
of times I found that where it was when I was younger, it was like you said, maybe be offended by it or just to not be sure, like, why are they staring at me? But then it just, as I got older, I realized it's like, oh, okay, because it is a unique thing they've maybe never seen before. Uh,
right,
so maybe they are just interested in, my uniqueness and what is it
right,
that caused me to be this unique?
right. And when you
Yeah.
go up to a person, like, okay, if I go up to you, I never met you before, and I go, um, what's your disability? I mean, to me, disability is a cuss word. But
Mhm.
if somebody, if somebody comes up to me and says, "What's your disability?" It's just like, I don't know, where's the beauty in that? Like, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? But if you say, "Hey, I wanted to know what's your beauty mark?" It's like there's a ray of sunshine that gives me some of my dignity back,
Right.
but it kind of singles me out at the same time and says, "Hey, you're a little bit more creative." And I
Hmm.
want to I want to know a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I want to know what
There,
that's
yeah,
about.
I want to know
Yeah.
what I want to know what that's about. And I educate adults. See, I educate children, but I also educate adults because sometimes if you go up to a person and you can see on their faces they just don't want you like near them or looking at them or anything like that, because
Right.
there are some people with beauty marks who don't want you to like pay them any mind. But the
Hmm.
moment that you change it and say, "Hey, what's your beauty mark?" They're going, what's beauty mark?
Right.
Your condition. I've heard so many stories of adults wanting to go up to a person who is different and ask them a personal question. And when they use that word beauty mark, when they ask them, "What's your beauty mark?" I've heard so many stories of people DMing me and say, "Oh my gosh, that was the best conversation I've ever had." And the look on their face when they hear that is
Yeah, it
just
does.
amazing. It gives you that sense of, wow, they really care, and you really like what I have. And I got a funny story to tell you. I parked in a parking lot and I didn't have my handicap sign, and a cop was right behind me when I got out of the store, and he saw my arm and said, "Oh, I'm sorry, dude. I never even had a handicap sign. Like
Wow.
I never had one. I never had one. I never owned one." And like, but just the fact, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Wow.
so I want to change that. I want to change that because there's so many different genres of beauty marks out there of disabled people, and it's
Yeah.
just like there's people who park in that spot and they don't even have anything you could see.
Right.
It's
Exactly.
internal.
Yeah.
I had a friend
Yeah.
who was cussed
Exactly.
out by an older gentleman because she didn't have anything that you could see. She had a bone marrow, but you didn't see anything. She was walking like a regular day that day. She had a good day and was cussed out by an older gentleman because he felt as though she was parking in his spot.
Wow.
Yeah. So it can go both ways. And it's just like we have to, it's time. You know what I mean? It's time. And I'm excited because I see, you know, I'm starting to see people come together. Like the other day, I just posted, there was a guy who he was he was deaf, and he was signing on an Amazon commercial. That is the first time I've
Yeah.
ever seen that.
Yeah.
Beautiful,
Yes.
beautiful.
Yeah. Definitely coming. Things are improving, and still a long way to go, obviously. But
Yeah,
for, like you said, an Amazon commercial, it's like, wow, like that's
Yeah.
fantastic. That's really great.
Yep.
Because
So
it wasn't, you know, when we were younger, you wouldn't see that. You know, it's similar to the you know, seeing a lot more African American families or interracial families on TV, and uh, you know, things that you wouldn't see in the 80s or early 90s when we
right,
were
right,
children. Now you're seeing more things coming up and being out for everyone to see out on TV and commercials and things like
right.
that. So that's really um, always great to see. And I guess a couple of months ago was the big thing of, I believe it was in Target with the little boy in a wheelchair.
Yes.
He was looking up at an advertisement of another boy who was advertising clothing for Target, and he was a wheelchair user as well.
Yes.
You know, so it's those types of things that that you didn't see 20 years ago, 10 years ago even.
Right.
So now you're seeing that more often. But in addition to what you were saying, it's more than the wheelchair users.
Yes.
You know, that's why I named my company OurView, because it's not my view, because I'm just one
Yes.
person with one condition, and I can talk a lot about it. I can talk for days about it. But it's the you know, it's the our view, the collective, and the, like you said, the community of it,
Yeah.
of all of us who have different conditions, different diagnosis, and the internal invisible things that you
Yes.
can't see. And it's, you know, that's what it's has to become about. It can't just be about the one you know, the one thing. Although that's, like I said, my experience, I can speak on the being a wheelchair user using mobility aids and my braces and crutches. I just
Right.
posted before we started this conversation, I just posted something now that the states are starting to open up again after the pandemic. New Jersey opens in a few days, tomorrow actually, with outdoor dining. I'm seeing a
Mm.
lot of places do outdoor dining, but they're doing picnic tables.
Mm.
And as a wheelchair user, I can't pull up to a picnic table because they're
Right.
locked
Right.
on the ends, and there's the bench on the sides.
Right.
So I know a lot of people on my in my social media life, friends of mine who own or work at restaurants, and I'm just like, hey, can you encourage your you know, your boss, or if you
Right.
are the
Right.
boss, can you encourage them to get some tables that aren't blocked off at the end, so people in wheelchairs. And even with me wearing braces, my braces are, you know, 6 pounds a piece. It's hard to lift them up over a bench to sit at a
Wow.
table on a bench. So uh, and it's stuff, I saw another restaurant that they put all of their first they first they're using only all picnic tables, and then they put them all in like a sand area.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah, so it was just like, okay, I really can't
That's
get to
not
that
going to help
anyway.
at all.
So it's
That's not
just,
going to help at all.
but you know, and it's just the thing of being aware
Yes.
of
Be
those types of
considerate.
things, raising the awareness of it all. You know, my caption was something like, I've been out of the house 7 times since March 11th, like I want to go out and eat too. uh, but like a lot of you are making it difficult for me to go out and eat,
Right.
because
Right.
I can get there, but then I can't get to the table. So
Right.
you know, I really want to uh, raise that awareness and just help, as you started off the conversation with educating. And it's really important to not just the individuals we know and the children in our lives, but also the adults, because it's, you know, they won't naturally think, using the restaurant as an example, they wouldn't naturally think of, oh, maybe I should just get a table with a few chairs so that
Right.
somebody in a
Right.
wheelchair can pull up to the table too,
Yeah.
because they might want to come out and eat.
Right. It's very,
So,
very few. Very few.
yeah.
And what really baffles me is that they have a handicap bathroom
Hmm.
stall. So you have that,
Right.
but where can I eat?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So
I don't understand.
yeah, I'm
Yeah,
hoping to you know, start conversations with people about that. Just
definitely.
just to be more aware. And
Right.
and these are places like you follow pages on social media, places that I've been. So
Right.
it's just, and I might have been the only person that they've seen that comes in
Right.
a
Right.
wheelchair or so, but it's still just to have the availability of it
Right.
is important.
It's yeah,
And
it
it
is.
says that you're thinking of me and people like me. So it's a
Yeah.
very it's welcoming to see, I would say, if if I saw something that looked like I could actually roll up to in my wheelchair. So
It's good to do this. It's good to
it
do it.
is. It's important to do it, I think,
Yeah.
because it's important to have these conversations, um, because a lot of times people don't share their stories.
Mm.
And um, it's so funny. Through this conversation, I've thought about something that I often say to when doing my presentations. I always say I say I have a disability, because based on the definition of it, some
Right.
of my life daily activities are limited because
Right.
of my diagnosis. So I have a disability, but I don't say I'm disabled,
Right.
because as you mentioned with the wheelchair, the chair is disabled because it can't do anything until I get in it.
Right. Yeah.
I use the same analogy, but I use a disabled car. A car that's disabled
Mm.
can't do anything.
That's right. That's
Yeah,
true.
it can't do anything. You can't move it, you can't start it. And I found that out being in this quarantine. I was starting my car, but the battery still died on it.
Mm.
So, I went out to start it and it was not starting. So I'm just like, yeah, like, see, this is a disabled car. It can't do anything
Yeah.
because it needs the
Yeah.
battery to, make everything move and
That's
function.
right.
So, that's how I like to say it. Like, I have a disability because some of my things, I have to do things differently. And some things are limited, my activities of daily living. Um, but I manage to, cook and clean and do things.
That's right.
But yeah, I love what you said about the beauty market. It does bring like a smile to your face, and it kind of makes you do like a double take, like, huh? My,
Right.
my what?
Like, what is that?
Like your beauty mark. Like, what are your
Yeah.
diagnosis? What's your condition? Like,
Yeah.
it really does make you say, like, oh wait, like, wow, okay. And
Yeah. I
it
never
goes
thought about it like
beyond,
that.
yeah, and it goes beyond. I think it goes again. It changes that conversation from a negative
Mhm.
to a positive, which
Yes.
is very important. It's very important to not focus on the negatives of it all, and just focus on the positive and the things that people can do. And I think it's really really important, like you said, to have like we said, to have these conversations,
Yeah.
to share our stories and get everything out. And um, so what, if people want to find you on social media and your website and all of that, how can they locate you? And
Okay, so I'm on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Did I say Facebook?
yes.
Yeah, okay. And TikTok. You got a TikTok now.
Oh, do you?
Yes. Okay, so on Beautymark Community, you can find me on Facebook, just that name alone, Beautymark being one word and community. And then Instagram is Beautymark_community. And then our website is beautymarkcommunity.com.
Great.
So I mean, nobody has that name. Like nobody
Right.
has.
It is. It's
I was
very.
I
It's.
was kind of like yay, but at the same time I was like no. It's like no, they gotta switch the name.
Yeah, it's
But
very original and very unique for sure.
yeah, this name actually was told to me. I didn't make it up.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I was in a crowd of friends, and this one girl, she never knew me, and she said, "What happened to your arm?" And I was like, I said it was a disability,
Mm-hmm.
and one of my friends next to me said, "It's not a disability. It's her beauty mark." And I don't know, it kind of like resonated with me. Like it stuck with me for years. That was like
Wow.
maybe 12 years ago.
Oh,
It stuck
wow.
with me for years, and I never, like, he said it like as if it was a birthmark.
Mhm.
And then I asked him, I said, I actually did an interview with him because I asked him, did he remember ever saying that to me? He said, yeah, I remember saying that. And I asked him, I said, what made you call it a beauty mark? He said, I don't know. He said, when I look at because I have a mole right there.
Mhm.
It's called a beauty mark, right? And he said, when I look at it, he said, I don't see it as something that's ugly or disabled. Or he said, I think it's beautiful, and it's your mark. It's what makes you you.
It's you,
And it
yeah.
stuck with me for years. And I told him, I said,
Wow.
listen, if you never, so beauty mark, the word beauty mark was founded from an act of kindness.
Mhm.
Somebody who went out of his way for me and said, it's not a disability, it's a beauty mark. And he gave me my dignity. That one word gave me my dignity. And that feeling that I've had, that's what I want everybody else to feel. The same feeling that gave me that day,
Yeah.
that's the same feeling that I want everybody to understand.
Wow.
It's not a disability, it's a beauty mark. It's something just like, it was like a big hug, like, you're not
Yeah.
alone. It's beautiful. And it was just like, he said it. He was very popular kid. He said
Wow.
it. And it stuck with me for years. And it, without that word being said to me, I wouldn't know what the community would have been called. I just
Wow.
don't.
It's so it's so great how something that someone else says to you can really change your whole perspective on something.
Yeah, he never knew. He never knew. And when I had the interview with him, and I told him, I said, you never knew the impact that made on my life.
Wow.
Never
Yeah.
knew. And super humble guy, very nice. But then when I was talking to him in the interview, he went on to tell me that his relative actually had a beauty mark. She was born without thumbs,
Oh,
and
wow.
he never looked at her, you know, as a person with a
Mhm.
disability. He looked at her also as beauty mark. And I told him, I said, man, I ran with that.
Right.
I said, I ran with that. I ran with that hard, man, because I was like, I got to use that. That's a beautiful word. It's a beautiful word. But
Wow.
yeah. And so years later, me pointing at God, like, why me? Why me? It turned to, why not me? You
Yes.
know, and now,
Yes.
I know why He chose me for this journey, because I have no diagnosis. I have
Right.
none. I've been getting blood work since the day I was born, and they can't find out what it is about me. Like, what is this called? They don't know. It's very rare. And so I truly believe that I was born like this for everyone else. I have
Mhm.
a big mouth. I could talk a lot, Arthur. I also have a big heart, and I
Uh-huh.
don't take crap from anybody. And I
Right.
believe that the Lord is using that to have me be a voice for those who are voiceless,
Yeah.
and to stand in the gap for, like I said, a community instead of dividing. You know, like I said, I'm not degrading anybody who has different, you know, um, organizations, but like your organization and my organization, putting it together instead of just singling it out, that's where change happens. That's where we could come together and we can like create something beautiful, to where it's like, oh my gosh, look at, it's like you said, right now we're going through the works with, black and white, and Puerto Rican and Asian and Arabic, and all these colors, all of these ethnic backgrounds. If we could just learn from one another, the tribes and the ancestors and all of that. We would just be amazed at the history. And instead of educating one another about who we are and what our background is, because people look at me and, if depending on how I wear my hair, they think I'm Puerto Rican, they think I'm white, they think I'm black. But
Hmm.
if you don't ask me and I don't tell you, then you're not intrigued. And it's like, we're so much better when we're together. We're so much better when we really stop dividing and come together. And we're so much more powerful than
Yeah.
ever when we're together. Because I'm telling you, it's for a split second. For a split second, I looked on the news and I'm like, wow, it's really happening. We're really uniting, really doing it. And then
Hmm.
somehow, some way, it kind of like drifted. And I'm just like, now we're more divided than we ever were. And I'm just
Hmm.
trying to bring, you know, some unity back, some of it. If I can just get a couple people on board with me,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? To bring that unity back, because I'm telling you, it's so much better when we're together. It's so
Yeah.
much better when we're together. And it's so beautiful when we're all together. It's like watching a whole bunch of butterflies of different colors and different wings, just watching them. It's a beautiful thing. I don't even like butterflies, but just to watch them like all together,
Yeah.
like you know what I mean? It's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing. It's like, wow. And I want that for this country. I want this for this community. I just want it so bad. And I think that's where it starts. When you want it so bad, that's when it
Yeah.
starts.
Yeah. I think that's so well said, and it just, we're so much better together, and things can be accomplished when working together, and
Yeah.
uh, where everybody has a part to play, and it all
And
comes
that's
together
key.
very well. Yeah.
That's key, Arthur,
Yeah, because
because a lot of
everybody
people
has
don't.
something.
Yeah.
Everybody has something to offer. I think it's just finding out what that is, and what role they can play in uh, making things happen, and change happen
Yeah.
is really really important for sure. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm so happy we had this conversation. It was so great, and once everything does open up back again, I would love to actually meet you officially in person.
Yes. Yes.
This is our first time meeting, through a Zoom call,
I
which
know.
is
Yeah.
the way of the world right now. But I would definitely, like to sit down, have additional conversations about, things that we can do, and just work together to make some change happen in this.
Yeah.
In the world, just
Most definitely.
in any way. So I think it's really really important that we, as we keep saying, to work together.
Yeah.
So
It's pretty much, it's basic, but it's the hardest thing to do.
it is. It is. It's difficult for sure, but
Yeah.
I think we can have 10 more of these conversations, and
Yes.
yeah. So I'll definitely be in touch with you, and thank you so much for taking the time out to have this conversation with me. And
Of
if
course.
there's anything that I can do to help spread your message, just let me know, and we will have, like I said, we'll have more conversations. We'll think of additional topics we can talk about, and would love to have you back on the podcast again sometime soon.
Of course. Thank you
Yeah,
for
but
having me.
you're welcome, and have a good night, and enjoy the rest of the weekend.
Yeah. Thank you. You too.
All right, you're welcome. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode of the OurView Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the OurView Podcast on Anchor, Apple Podcast, or Spotify. New episodes will be released on the 15th and 30th of every month. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at OurView for Life. That's OurView, the number 4, LIFE. Do you want to help change the tone of conversation among your family and friends? head over to our website for some OurView merchandise. Our website is www.our-view.com/merchandise. For more information on the Beautymark community featured in this episode, follow them on Facebook at Beautymark Community and on Instagram at Beautymark_community. Beautymark is one word. I thank you for listening. Have a great day and take care.